Katie, congratulations. This must be very exciting for you.
It is exciting. I'm ready to get going because we've been building up to this moment, and I just hope that you know, the expectations haven't been set so high. We just want to do the show, make it as good as we possibly can, and really get into a groove about it.
And what are some of these topics you're going to be covering?
Well, all sorts of things. I mean, from the impact of technology on our culture, on our relationships, our families. We're going to take a look at that. We'll talk about Army suicides. You know, there's one Army suicide, or there was one Army suicide a day in the month of July. You know, what kind of support are we providing vis-a-vis mental health? I'm interested in dating violence. I went to the University of Virginia, and Yardley Love was murdered by her ex-boyfriend there. So dating violence is something that I think we have to make young women aware of and educate people about. Those are all very serious topics, obviously, but we're going to have some fun as well. You know, talk about, you know, are we setting the bar too high for personal happiness? You know, everyone talks about happiness. We all want to be happy, but should we be focused on something else like contentment or giving back or gratitude? Because it seems there are a lot of disillusioned people out there.
What's your recipe for personal happiness?
I think staying busy and doing something you love keeps you happy. I think also being committed to something larger than yourself and your own kind of microcosm is important. You know, I've devoted a lot of time and energy to cancer advocacy work, to stand up to cancer and to colon cancer awareness and research. You know, I'm not happy all the time. Sometimes I'm lonely, sometimes I'm frustrated, sometimes I'm, you know, self-critical like everyone else. But, you know, and I think also I've accepted that, you know, as hard as it is, that you're not going to be happy 100% of the time.
No one can be.
Yeah, but I think people get frustrated when they're not.
You've interviewed almost every influential person I can think of. Is there anyone you haven't interviewed yet that would be a dream guest for the show?
I think it'd be really interesting to interview Kate Middleton, because I think she has comported herself so well since she's been thrust in the limelight and has done such a good job, even though I feel like she needs to eat more because she's so thin.
Who is the most interesting or inspiring woman you've ever interviewed?
Well, that's hard because I've interviewed so many interesting, inspiring women through the years. I mean, I thought Audrey Hepburn was one of the most elegant and charming and gracious people I'd ever spoken to, and went around the whole studio, introduced herself to every cameraman, every member of our technical crew, every production assistant. She was just so gracious.
Who's your personal female role model?
I don't, you know, probably, I have a lot. I think it's probably a mosaic of people that I've watched through the years. I mean, Barbara Walters certainly has been a trailblazer for women in television news, and it's indefatigable. I mean, she just is like the ever-ready bunny. She never slows down, so I have a lot of respect for that. I'm not sure I'll be able to do the same that she's done through the course of her career and kept going and going and going.
You're pretty close.
Well, I'm not quite in my 80s yet, so you can check back with me then. And Eleanor Roosevelt, I think, has always been somebody I've admired greatly because, you know, she was ridiculed and criticized for speaking out and supporting, you know, the underserved population. I think Hillary Clinton is very impressive as well because she endured took a lot of flack during that presidential campaign, really only because she was a woman, and I think she is just has such an impressive mind. Whether you agree with her politically or not, you really can't dispute the fact that she is highly, highly intelligent.
Do you think it is harder for women in these high roles of power, like Hillary, like yourself, like other women anchors, and why?
I think sometimes it can be, because I think that there's still people who don't feel comfortable with women and with the notion of a powerful woman. You know, I think it's sort of against our cultural conditioning to see women in positions of authority. And so I think that sometimes that discomfort results in people being criticized for the wrong reasons, you know, with a huge emphasis on their appearance. You know, you don't see male CEOs picked apart for the way they look, or male politicians picked apart for the way they looked, or looked as much as I think you do see women.
Well, you are a huge role model to women everywhere. You raised 2 young daughters by yourself, all while maintaining a hugely successful career. What is your advice to balancing motherhood and a successful career?
Well, it's really hard because I think the big mistake in this whole area of conversation is sometimes we have this one-size-fits-all philosophy. And I think my biggest piece of advice is to figure out what works for you. You know, for some women, you know, a demanding job and raising kids is just too difficult. Their heart isn't in it. And I think you really have to look at yourself and figure out what will make you happy. You know, and if you're tortured by feeling spread too thin, or you worry about your kids having the right kind of care, then you need to examine that. On the other hand, I also really believe that it's important for women to also have an identity in addition to that of mother. You know, whether it's doing community service work, whether it's, you know, writing a blog, feeling as if they're contributing maybe in addition to their kids. The only reason I say that is so many people I know now have finished raising their kids and they're off to college. And so what happens is, I think if you just focus all your attention on that, it's sometimes difficult because you feel like your identity is lost once your kids leave. So I think, you know, and again, this is not being judgmental, because I want everyone to make a decision they feel comfortable doing, knowing that they're never going to feel 100% great about what they're doing, and they need to be gentle with themselves when they feel they fall short. But that, you know, developing yourself, your own sense of self, and maintaining that even while you're raising a family, I think is something that's really important.